Everyone, this is Gorang Sharma, Assistant Professor from RI College in Economics Department. Today we will discuss about the theory of interest, class BCom second. First of all, we know the meaning of interest rate. What is interest rate? It is the rate of return on capital. In other words, interest is a price paid for borrowed fund. It is the cost of the borrower and return to the lender. There are two type of interest rate: nominal interest rate and real interest rate. Nominal interest rate, the rate at which fund can be borrowed from the market, and real interest rate, it is a nominal rate of interest corrected for the inflation. तो पहले तो मैं इंटरेस्ट रेट का मतलब बताया कि इंटरेस्ट रेट क्या होता है। जब हम फंड को बोरो करते हैं तो जो प्रिंसिपल अमाउंट है उससे ऊपर जो पैसे हमें पे करने पड़ते हैं फॉर यूज़ ऑफ मनी, उसे हम इंटरेस्ट रेट कहते हैं। और नॉमिनल इंटरेस्ट रेट क्या होता है? एक तो नॉमिनल इंटरेस्ट रेट वो होता है जो मार्केट के अकॉर्डिंग डिसाइड किया जाता है। जैसे कि अगर एक पर्सन बोरो करता है 1 लाख रुपीज़, अगर उस पर 10% इंटरेस्ट है तो वो 10% ही रहेगा। उस इन्फ्लेशन के होने से या इन्फ्लेशन रेट बढ़ने से उस पर कोई मतलब इंटरेस्ट में कोई चेंज नहीं आएगा। फिर दूसरी साइड जो रियल इंटरेस्ट रेट है, उसमें क्या होता है, जो नॉमिनल इंटरेस्ट रेट है उसमें से माइनस कर दिया जाता है इन्फ्लेशन रेट भी, ताकि जो इन्फ्लेशन के इंक्रीज़ होने से जो इंटरेस्ट रेट है उसमें जो चेंजेस आते हैं उसको ठीक किया जाए। देयर आर थ्री स्कूल्स ऑफ थॉट्स: theory of interest, classical, neoclassical and Keynesian. According to classical, rate of interest determined by the saving and investment, and according to neoclassical, rate of interest also known as a loanable fund theory, and according to him, the rate of interest can be measured and determined with the help of monetary and non-monetary forces. And according to Keynesian, the theory is known as liquidity preference, and rate of interest determined by the supply of money. First of all, we have to discuss about the classical theory of interest, and there are few assumptions of this theory. First is there is a full employment house, and second is the household are net saver and producer are net borrower, and third is there is a no government intervention. Definitions of interest rate according to classicals. Fishers: interest rate is a price borrow pay for the use of money they borrow from a lender. Second is Nassau Senior. The interest is a compensation for sacrificing, subsisting from the consumption. Interest arise because of subsistence involved in the act of saving. And Marshall, interest is a price for postponing consumption. Determination of rate of interest according to classicals. Rate of interest is determined by the supply of saving and demand. Higher the rate of interest, higher the saving by the household. More saving means increase in interest rate of sacrifice, so compensate it higher rate of interest as reward. A simple saving equation is below. Saving is a function of rate of interest, where saving and rate of interest are equal, and lower the rate of interest, higher the demand for investment by the producers. As investment increases, the marginal efficiency of capital decreases. Therefore, investment demand rise when rate of interest falls. The equations for investment equals to function of rate of interest, where uh, investment is I, and the rate of interest is determined by the equality of saving and investment. So here is a rate of interest एंड से जहाँ पे इक्विलिब्रियम पे है, यहाँ पे रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट फिक्स किया जाता है। अगर रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट ज़्यादा होगा तो सेविंग ज़्यादा करेंगे, अगर रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट कम होगा तो इन्वेस्टमेंट ज़्यादा करेंगे। तो ये इक्वेशन हमें शो कर रही है, ये सेविंग कर्व है और दूसरा हमारा इन्वेस्टमेंट कर्व है। Now explanation of figure 1. The x-axis represent S and I, where y-axis represent rate of interest, supply of saving curve and demand for investment curve are represented by S and I respectively. Equilibrium rate of interest is at intersection of above two curves. At equilibrium, the saving and investment and rate of interest are There are a few limitations of classical theory. The first limitation is the full employment situation is impractical, income effect and saving has ignored, and the effect of consumption due to higher saving not considered. Classical theory of is indeterminate. नेक्स्ट थ्योरी ऑफ इंटरेस्ट लोनेबल फंड थ्योरी। जो प्रीवियस वाली थी वो क्लासिकल थ्योरी थी, अब ये न्यू क्लासिकल थ्योरी है। द लोनेबल फंड थ्योरी ऑफ इंटरेस्ट इज एन एक्सटेंशन ऑफ क्लासिकल थ्योरी. It incorporates non-monetary factors along with monetary factors of saving and investment. According to this theory, rate of interest is determined by the demand for and the supply of loanable funds in the economy at the level in which demand and supply are equated. तो इसके assumptions हैं, first is perfect mobility of funds throughout the market, perfect competition in the market, in other words borrower and lender are price taker. जो परफेक्ट कंपटीशन का होता है कि देयर आर लार्ज नंबर ऑफ बायर्स एंड सेलर्स प्राइस टेकर, तो उनकी वो assumption है. थर्ड है theory use a partial equilibrium approach, demand and supply of fund depend upon the rate of interest, other factor constant. Then fourth is the theory takes flow equilibrium and money supply is exogenous. There are 5 assumptions of loanable fund theory. अब इस थ्योरी में जो डिटर्मिनेंट्स मिसिंग थे क्लासिकल थ्योरी में उनको एक्सप्लेन किया गया है. जैसे कि सप्लाई ऑफ लोनेबल फंड LS कंस्टेन सेविंग आउट ऑफ डिस्पोजेबल इनकम, एंड जो हमारा लोनेबल फंड का सप्लाई कर्व है वो कंसिस्ट करता है सेविंग आउट ऑफ डिस्पोजेबल इनकम, जिसको एस से डिनोट किया है, और डिसहोल्डिंग को DH से, और इंक्रीमेंटल सप्लाई ऑफ मनी को M स्टार से, और डिस इन्वेस्टमेंट को DI से. देन जो ये इक्वेशन बनेगी जो लोनेबल फंड थ्योरी की सप्लाई कर्व की S प्लस DH प्लस M स्टार प्लस DI, ये हमारी फर्स्ट इक्वेशन बन गई. सो LS is an increasing function of rate of interest. The demand for loanable fund, तो उसकी इक्वेशन बनेगी LD, which consists of gross investment expenditure, which denotes I, holdings, and incremental demand for labor, incremental demand for money, which denotes MD dash, and this saving or consumption demand DS. So these are the components of loanable fund of demand. I denotes investment expenditure, and MD star denotes demand for money, and DS denotes this saving or consumption of demand. So loanable fund demand is a decreasing function of R. तो जो लोनेबल फंड है उसका जो सप्लाई का वो है, सप्लाई कर्व है वो अपवर्ड शिफ्ट है, और जो डिमांड कर्व है वो डाउनवर्ड शिफ्ट है, और उसका जो फंक्शन है रिलेशन के रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट के साथ लोनेबल डिमांड का डिक्रीजिंग है और लोनेबल सप्लाई का इंक्रीजिंग है. तो ये इक्वेशन बनेगी. तो उसके अकॉर्डिंग ही हमने जितने भी कर्व्स हैं जो हमारे सप्लाई डिमांड के कर्व हैं वो डाउनवर्ड स्लोप आएंगे, और जो सप्लाई के कर्व हैं वो अपवर्ड स्लोप आएंगे अकॉर्डिंग टू कंपोनेंट्स जितने भी हैं. और जहाँ पे ये सभी कट कर रहे हैं वो हमारा इक्विलिब्रियम पॉइंट बनेगा, और फिर उनको कलेक्ट करने से हमारा जो लोनेबल फंड सप्लाई और लोनेबल फंड डिमांड ड्राइव हो जाएगा. There are few limitations of loanable fund theory. Supply side, all savings are not routed through the loan market. Some are invested directly into physical asset by household. Similarly, all disholding is not lent to other. Some is spent directly by the disholders. From demand side, all investor is not financed by the borrowed fund. A part of it is financed by the own funds. Second is the partial equilibrium approach fails to include many variables like real income, price, demand, and supply of money, saving, and investment, etc. The theory postulated that all borrowing and lending is done through the perfect homogeneously bonds in one fully integrated market. This is not true even in the developed financial market. Generally, there is a wide variety of loan, contract, and instruments are used in the several imperfectly competitive and segmented markets. And fourth is in the bond and securities market, stock equilibrium instead of flow equilibrium dominated the behavior of the rate of interest because the volume of outstanding bonds is much more than the flow of new demand and supply of bond during the short period. And last, in conclusion, the classical theory and neoclassical theory both are very relevant present context in the understanding and making policy. The monetary approach is further improvement over the classical theory, which is very useful in today's world. The Keynes approach is also very important theory, and it is the first theory which is taken macro perspective. But the monetary theory and Keynesian theory will be studied at higher level. There are many theories of for theory of interest which will be studied in future. I hope it's all clear to you. Thank you.